So we are now on to relationship number 5. Um, and like I said, I'm skipping number 3 and 6 for the time being. So relationship number 5. Her name is Angel. Her fake name is Angel. And I have known her since 6th grade. She was to me a middle school sweetheart. And we did choir together, we did drama class together, we did math together, and we did PE together. And I remember the first time seeing her was in drama class. I walked in, and we were supposed to go on this stage to do like introductions. And there was a light shining right on her. Beautiful redhead. She's from one of the Eastern European countries. I believe her father was from Ukraine, and they fled the Soviet Union and came to America in the 80s. So she was a redhead, Slavic, Ukrainian, very beautiful, very, very, very beautiful. I think one of the most beautiful women I've ever put my eyes on. And we did drama together, we did choir together. For PE class, this was 7th grade, I wanted to show her I could be a good runner. And not only did I take it upon myself to run every day, but I actually got really good at running. Really good at running. I think I went from a 12-minute mile down to a 7-minute mile. Now a little bit of that was also because I wanted to join the military at my young age, but it was because I wanted to show off. I went from being somewhere in the middle to one of the lead people when it came to running. I even did track and field in middle school, and ended up doing cross country in high school. Now, granted, at that point, I was just doing it of my own free will. She did I think it was called a START program, where you get out of high school 2 years early and you essentially do college classes. I'm a little fuzzy on the details, but she wasn't really around in high school for 11th and 12th grade. But I had this massive crush on her. I had a buddy actually give me her phone number. And I was just such a little kid. Oh my god, I would call her, she would pick up, "Hello, who is this?" And I would hang up like, "Oh my god, I heard her voice, that's so cool." It was also around this time I also got my first phone. I got my first phone in 7th grade, and it was a flip phone, because my parents didn't like all the touch screen. They didn't like what you could do on the touch screen, like the internet. Essentially, my parents were very scared of me doing pornography or just looking up anything bad, which didn't really stop me, because I turned around and bought an iPod Touch, first gen. I bought it from GameStop for $80, and I saved up a lot of birthday money for that. And back when I watched a bunch of YouTube. I'm getting off track. Wow, nostalgia. So anyway, high school rolled around. I deemed her way out of my league. Very attractive. She was super smart. Super smart. And a common trend is, of all the women I've dated, I would say of the 6 women I've dated, and there's a reason why I said 6, out of the 6 women I've dated, I think all but one were very smart. Very smart. And I take pride in that. I got good taste in smart women. I guess their smartness eventually figured out that I'm an asshole, so I think they came to their senses, their smart senses, and left me. But I digress. Very smart. She was doing college classes in high school. I did manage to actually go on a date with her in 11th grade. We went out to, frozen yogurt. And then she invited me to church that night, and it was really nice. Now, unfortunately, she made some bad decisions that prevented me from dating her in the later years of high school. Now, I was in the Civil Air Patrol, which is basically JROTC for the Air Force, and we actually wore Air Force blues. Well, we wore Civil Air Patrol blues, but they looked very similar to Air Force blues. And I remember I was like, you know what? I really want to date her. I went up to her parents' house. I found out where she lived. Come to find out, she lived right down the road. And I didn't know that for like the longest time. But when I did find out that she lived down the road, I went to her parents' house in my Civil Air Patrol blues, and I was like, is Angie here? I actually want to take her out on another date. And they were like, well, you look great, but she's grounded until she graduates high school. That's 2 years from now. Yep, sucks for her. Okay, so that happened. So anyway, we graduate. We were Facebook friends, but we graduate high school, and I remember on the bus going to boot camp. Now, I already was dating my first girlfriend at the time. But one of the things that went through my head was, hey man, you know how you said you always wanted to be with Angel? Yeah, I did. I wanted to be with her for the past 7 years. But, I'm with someone else now, and here I am getting ready to go to boot camp. I'm literally on the bus driving to Lackland, and I was like, bro, I think it's safe to say that she's probably gone. Okay, that's fine. I got someone else. Until I didn't. But I go through boot camp, I go through tech school, I go through a few more relationships, and about 6 months into me being at Oklahoma, my birthday rolls around, and I get a birthday message from her on Facebook. And what was supposed to be a happy birthday on Facebook turned into, how are you doing? What are you doing these days? Come to find out, she was a volunteer firefighter, which was crazy. I'm a firefighter. And she was deciding if she wanted to be a teacher or a nurse. She eventually settled for being a nurse. She liked to help people. And I was like, that's great. That's really great. I was very happy for her. And things really grew. And it grew genuinely. Like there was a genuine interest. And it grew fast, but it didn't grow super fast like what it did in the past. It took a few months for us to kind of like, is this really working? And, I sent her gifts, like Air Force gifts, like a Air Force t-shirt and an Air Force hat. And she really appreciated it. And there came a day where she was like, I want to come down and see you in Oklahoma. Sure. Yeah. Whatever. Usually I'm the one going to people. But sure enough, that night, plane ticket to Dallas. Come pick me up in Dallas. Oh shit. Okay. So the day comes. I pick her up in Dallas, and she walks out of the hotel that she was staying at. She flew in the day before, stayed at a hotel, and my job was to essentially pick her up and take her back to Altus. And she walked out of that hotel just as beautiful as the day that I saw her. And I was like, I am a really lucky guy right now. We stopped in Wichita Falls to go to Boot Barn. I got her a plaid shirt. I got her some cowboy boots. We went to a rodeo that was going on in Oklahoma. And after the rodeo, I took her to Lake Altus, which we couldn't see. It was dark out, but the stars were out. And just that whole day was just super magical. It was super nice. I'm like, here's someone that I wanted to be with in middle school and high school. And here she is, and we just had a super great day. We saw Texas. We got her some cowgirl attire. Went to a rodeo, and that was a great day. and we actually I actually stayed the night. So she got a hotel. I actually stayed the night with her at the hotel, and I was like, I was not expecting that for the first night, and it just made me super happy. And keep that in mind. Happiness, my happiness. So I'm gonna be referencing a little bit more moving into future videos. So anyway, um, so she stayed with me for a week, but we were a thing now, and I was so happy. I was so blessed. I I got the girl that I wanted to date in middle school and high school. The most beautiful woman I've ever seen. And Christmas comes around. And this was another just great moment where she stayed with me. She stayed with me in my dorm on base for 3 weeks. We spent a few days in Albuquerque. We went to the Sandia Mountains. We stayed in the Pyramid Hotel. We went to see the aquarium and the botanical gardens. We went to one of my favorite restaurants. I can't pronounce it. Los Coites. Amazing New Mexican restaurant with amazing New Mexican food. And just had a great time. I was driving a 2002 Honda CR-V at the time, and we were having some vehicle issues, and we drove from Altus, Oklahoma to Abilene, Texas, a 3-hour drive. We bought a my grandpa, as a gift, bought me a 2016 Volkswagen Golf, and it was red like a fire truck, which was really cool. And I just remember being so happy. I spent the day with my girl. I got a new car. It was modern, up to date. Her and I drove our cars back. The Honda basically sat in the parking lot until it was ready to be sold. But we were just driving around in the Volkswagen, having a great time, even for the days to come. And one of the reasons why I bought a Volkswagen Golf specifically is because she was Eastern European, and we both liked this YouTuber called Life of Boris. So literally, Life of Boris persuaded me to buy a Volkswagen Golf, and we would play Hard Boss, and we would drive around listening to Hard Boss, and in a Volkswagen Golf. Now, it wasn't an old Volkswagen Golf. It wasn't a Lada. It wasn't an Audi, but I still feel like it fit the bill. It was a pretty modern American Volkswagen compared to what Boris drives. But there were times I'd let her drive the Volkswagen, and we would find a gravel parking lot, and she would just emergency brake, floor it, and we'd do donuts in the gravel parking lot, and she would turn up the Hard Boss, and I'm like, God damn, girl, this is great. All we're missing is a Kalashnikov and some vodka. I don't think the vodka would go down pretty well, but the Kalashnikov, hey. And every time I dropped her off at the airport, she would always cry. She would always, oh, I'm going to miss you. Oh my God, I don't want to leave you. I don't want to go back to Washington. Because we were both from Washington. And I would always make fun of her. Oh, you're crying like a little pussy. But there was a time where I didn't really stop the relationship, but I definitely, how do I say this? It came to my attention that she might not have liked me for me. I feel like she liked Airman Richardson. She liked Firefighter Richardson. And even though in my heart, or at least in our heart, we were still dating, there was still that kind of, well, crap, am I right? Am I wrong? What's this going to look like moving forward? I actually went to Washington a few months later, and we actually talked about it, and um, we had a pretty productive, good conversation, and um, things worked out. She came back summertime of 2019, or summertime of 2019 now. We've been dating for 1 year now. We've already seen each other at least 4 times already, which is ridiculous. But she made a big effort into flying down to see me in Oklahoma, which I really appreciated. I don't think anyone's done that for me. So let's see. We went to, I can't think of the canyon, not the Grand Canyon. There's a canyon south of Amarillo. But we camped there. We explored Amarillo a little bit. And basically she stayed with me for another week in Oklahoma, and we knew about an upcoming deployment on my end. So, she was with me when, at least as far as the relationship goes, she was with me romantically when it came to, I'm getting ready to deploy, I'm going to Fort Carson, or not Fort Carson, Fort Bliss for CST, Combat Skills Training, TDY. I went back to Lackland for EKEG, and she came down after Christmas of 2019 to help me pack, and eventually see me off. And mom and dad and my sisters all came down, and we basically spent 2 days of just, hey, let's enjoy our time together. Let's go bowling. Let's see Altus. See the fire department. So it was just a very beautiful moment of, my family's here, my girlfriend's here. I'm so happy. Unfortunately, I knew that I was going to Qatar and then Afghanistan, but I only told them we're going to Qatar. And I ran into one of my coworkers at Walmart who knew that I was going to Afghanistan. And one of the last things he told me was, "Hey, stay warm where you're going." And everyone looked at me like, what is he talking about? So it ain't classified, it ain't secret, but I wasn't trying to worry you guys. I'm going to Qatar. I'm not staying in Qatar. I'm going to Afghanistan. And as soon as I said that, everyone was crying. I've never seen my dad cry. He started crying. Oh my God, my baby's going to Afghanistan. And yeah, that's pretty much how it went. So yeah, the next morning, I had my goodbyes. Hey, I'm leaving in about 2-3 days to start going to Afghanistan. There were a lot of hugs and kisses. And there was definitely that feeling of, hey, I might not be coming back. And looking at what happened in Afghanistan, I almost didn't come back. I laugh at it now, but it was very scary at the time. My girlfriend was still going through nursing school. She was probably top of her class, and I couldn't have been more proud. When I went to Farah, Wi-Fi was very limited, and my parents would probably hear from me on maybe a weekly basis. Girlfriend also probably a weekly basis. Eventually, we did manage to get better Wi-Fi towards the latter half of my time in Farah. And I recall that there was a time where I was sitting in the fire truck on standby, and it was late morning, and she was still up. It was late night for her. And this is kind of where things really started to turn south, and I made a very big mistake, depending on how you look at it, because I guess there's a blessing at the end of all of this, but we had a mutual friend, a mutual acquaintance, a guy named Dan. And Dan, I had in 10th grade VisCom. Dude was extremely funny. I considered him a really funny dude, a very likable dude. And we did movie projects together in this VisCom class. But he's also, at least to my understanding, it's been a very long time. He's also the individual that got Angel in trouble because apparently Angel would go out, sneak out, and those two would have their fun. They actually dated the last half of high school, and she eventually got caught, which put her on restriction, which got her grounded. And I remember she told me this kind of at the beginning of the relationship, and I kind of laughed, like, really, that dude? That's kind of funny. But where I made the boo-boo is apparently he messaged her on, I believe it was Instagram, and from what I was asked was, hey, Dan reached out to me, says he wants to hang out with me as friends. Is that okay with you? And I thought to myself, well, look, I saw an ex-girlfriend in San Angelo. You were understanding of that. I was there to help her. And you are an adult. Who am I to say no? By all means, hang out with Dan. I trust you. So, that was probably a big mistake. The rest of the deployment was I would try to talk to her when I had the chance. We did have some arguments. I was coming out of my liberal phase, and she was conservative. And, like, I remember we had an argument over, like, Blue Lives, the whole George Floyd thing. By this point, I've already been a little slightly red-pilled with my coworkers. I'm in Oklahoma, after all. It's a very red state. But I'm continuing to be red-pilled by her. Get a little bit more of the conservative perspective. And like I said, she's conservative. And so we had some arguments, in that regards. So let me think. Deployment ended. And then when I got back from the deployment, I got home. She was very happy to see me. And we still talked about moving in together. We talked about, what are you going to do? What am I going to do? All that stuff. So we did talk about that kind of stuff, but she did seem a little bit more reserved. I don't know why. At the time I didn't know why, but it was weird. But we were still talking about the future, which was great. Also by this point, she graduated, top of her class, nurse. I was so happy for her. I remember I was up early in the morning watching her her graduation, which all had to be had to be via Zoom conference. The teacher was at, I believe, her school. Angel was at her home with her parents. I was obviously in Qatar. And she was there receiving awards. Congratulations, you're now a nurse. COVID was really flaring up by this time, so everyone, you couldn't be in a classroom or at school. So she got to do it in the comforts of her own home. So I was very happy for her. She had a very bright future ahead of her. So going back to, this is October of 2020, things started to get a little bit more off for reasons I don't know why. I think I'm getting ahead of myself. November comes and she wants to see me abruptly. Sure, by all means, come down. And then she's really off. I remember it takes about 10 minutes to get across Altus. It's a very small town. I remember I got off work one time. She took her, 30 minutes to an hour to pick me up. I kept calling her, like, where are you at? You have my car. sleeping to the one side of the bed, and I'm over here like, okay, odd, weird. And then the drive back to the airport basically was like, I don't think we should move in anymore. Now, I will admit, I probably was very upset when she said that. I wanted to get out of the military for her, to start a future with her. And for me to hear that was just kind of like a, what the hell have I been doing? I've been doing all this stuff. And unfortunately, I think I said some things that really kind of like put nails in the coffin. And the way I said it probably didn't help at all. But when I dropped her off at the airport, she gave me a very long hug. And, you know, I get it. I was upset too. But it was one of those, it was a goodbye hug. And I didn't know it. Because I was driving back like, we've been through a lot. I think we're strong. And I'm sure we can talk things out. Let me come back to Washington in a few months and we can talk things out. Around this time, I had a buddy kill himself. And I wasn't hearing from my girlfriend until about a week later, where she's like, look, I understand that so-and-so died. I'm sorry to hear about that. I knew so-and-so. She knew a lot of my coworkers. But we are done. And I was like, whoa. Why are we done? I thought things were good. I just got back from a war zone. You know, I got back from this big deployment. And she's like, she did call me, but it wasn't really a productive call. And this is also a common theme for me, where sometimes I will get closure, but it's not really like, hey, here's like what's specifically wrong with you. It's usually like, you're a piece of shit, you're the worst, you're toxic, you're blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, what specifically? Like, I appreciate you telling me all these things, but like, I want accurate feedback. You telling me that I'm a piece of shit doesn't help me. You know, I like that open, mature communication. I'm gonna end it here. There's gonna be a part 2, and hopefully part 2 isn't that long, but stand by for part 2.